Another story which caught my eye just before we went to air here, and just to go back to this whole question of what's going to happen next year, the Democrats now say that they are going to run candidates at every state and congressional seat in the state of Texas. Now, I think this is a very interesting strategy here because it suggests to me that they feel A, confident, but B, that they are looking to do something where they force the Republicans to stretch their resources and tie up manpower and dollars across this entire huge state. Does this suggest that there's a confidence among the Democrats, despite the Democrats polling, as I mentioned at the start of the show, really appallingly and far worse than Donald Trump as a party?
Look, the Democrats have been looking at Texas now for 20 years as a prize they think they can get, and they don't get close. They've got a really, really weak candidate for the Senate race, a House member who is polling extraordinarily poorly. She's going to win the Democrat primary because she's a progressive leftist, but she's going to get waxed in the Senate race. So, look, it's the smart thing to do. If I'm running the Democrat Party, I'm going to try and get candidates in all the races. That's just the smart thing to do, make people spend money. But just because you put a name on a ballot doesn't mean you're viable. So I'll worry about this more when I see the quality of the candidates, see some early polling. Do I think there'll be some tailwinds behind Democrat candidates in 2026 in the midterms? Yes, I do. In fact, if the election were today, the Republicans would lose control of the House, I think, almost for sure. But there's a long way between that set of circumstances and the Democrats being really, really viable in one of the reddest states in the nation.
Yeah, no, look, that's fair enough, Mick. Hey, also, just finally, before I let you go, really interesting story here that Ford is moving to basically axe electric vehicle production, shifting resources back to petrol, gasoline-powered cars. How much of this here is due to the Trump administration's policies around changing fuel standards and not forcing people into EVs? And does this suggest then that the U.S. auto market making market is going to start to be able to once again fight back against all of those very heavily subsidized Chinese EVs, which we are seeing flooding America and, well, not America now, but also Australia?
Yeah, I think you're seeing the Trump team do what a good conservative Republican would want them to do, which is to get out of the business of manipulating the markets. If Americans want electric vehicles, American companies and foreign companies are going to make them. What we had was a giant perversion or distortion of the market over the course of the last 10 years, where the government essentially used tax policy to social engineer. They said, look, we know you don't really want an electric car, but here, we're going to make you buy them by changing the rules, so it makes it harder and more expensive to have petrol cars, gas-powered cars, and then give the subsidies for the EVs. Look, EVs make sense. I own one of them on an island that's only 3 miles long down in Florida. That makes sense there. If you live in Montana, they make 0 sense at all. So I'm glad to see the Trump administration getting back to some free market forces here. I wish they would do it in other places as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see Australia take a page out of that book when it comes to EVs versus petrol cars as well. But, you know, you live and learn. Anyway, Mick Mulvaney, thanks so much for joining me, and a very Merry Christmas to you and all the Mulvaneys.